Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Black Widow and Hawkeye #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Stephanie Phillips with art by Paolo Villanelli, Mattia Iacono on colors, letters by Joe Sabino. Apologies if I mispronounced any of those names. Um, I'm very excited for this book. I think this is a great pairing. Of course, we are celebrating 60 years of Black Widow and Hawkeye. So a really cool way to like Marvel's doing a lot of those because a lot of these characters launched around the same time. So we'll be seeing more anniversary celebrations. In this book, though, the eyes of a hawk and the venom of the widow. Even the Black Widow and Hawkeye had no one to trust. They still had each other even though their paths sometimes diverge. So when Clint Barton is accused of a rogue assassination attempt that puts US and Madripoor at odds, a symbiote equipped Natasha Romanoff thinks nothing of coming to his defense. But as echoes of their past ripple through the present, it will take all their faith in each other and all the lessons they learned along the way to protect their futures. So join fan favorite creator Stephanie Phillips and also Paolo Villanelli as they celebrate 60 years of the Black Widow and Hawkeye in this new chapter in the pair's story legacy. Very cool. I'm a big fan of Stephanie Phillips. I like a lot of the work that she's been doing, especially at Marvel. You know, you have Rogue and Gambit, Catwolf, and the Howling Commandos. Paolo's art I'm not as familiar with, but I have read the Star Wars Bounty Hunters part where he was working on. So very excited to see that. Um, let's go take a look at some of the preview art, and we'll get into more of this book. I mean, as you can see, Villanelli's art just really kicks off right off the bat. We start off in this Siberia flashback. I love the Black Widow, like her outfit with the crows flying all around. Obviously, we know that there seems to be some kind of symbiote stuff happening. Not really sure how we get there yet, but I think that'll be exciting to see. And then we do flash forward to Madripoor, or maybe flash back to Madripoor. Uh, so yeah, I mean, this is a great pairing. I think these characters they just work together very well. And due to their long story and long-standing relationship, I think this is going to be a very fun ride. So I'm very excited for this. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Ghost Rider Final Vengeance #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Benjamin Percy with art by Danny Kim, Brian Valence on colors, letters by Travis Lanham. Um, I'm a big fan of Benjamin Percy. I like the stuff that he's been doing, specifically on Wolverine. But I did catch the Ghost Rider crossover, Weapons of Vengeance. That was very cool. Now I don't know much about Danny Kim, so we'll definitely have to get into the preview art. So before we get into that, who is the new Spirit of Vengeance? Johnny Blaze was bonded with the Spirit of Vengeance. Unwilling to be a monster, Johnny used this demon from hell to do good as the Ghost Rider. But heroism isn't what the writer was meant for. So who will be the new Spirit of Vengeance, and what will that mean for the Marvel Universe? Find out in this extra size first issue by writer Benjamin Percy and artist sensation Danny Kim. Um, Interesting. I didn't know that's what was happening on the Ghost Rider series because last we left off, Johnny was still running around as the Ghost Rider. So let's go check out the art by Danny Kim. And just right off the bat, I can tell you that the tone really works. The tone just really works. I think a lot of it has to do with Valencia's colors as well. They're very muted. Obviously, we don't have a lot of a Ghost Rider book should not have a lot of really bright moments until it really calls for them, right? Which is mainly when everything's on fire. Um, so yeah, this looks pretty interesting. I do see a lot of heavy lines and heavy inks, which is not usually my favorite style, but I think we'll have to give this a chance. I do like the fact that there is conflict within the writer, and it looks like we're going to name a new successor. or maybe a new victim, if however you want to see that. So that's pretty interesting. And like I said, Benjamin Percy has been known to deliver really cool stories, sometimes pretty violent, but I mean, it's a Ghost Rider book. It's kind of what I'm signing up for. So yeah, pretty excited to check this one out. There's also a cover by Greg Capullo. You'll see it at the end of the video. I am very hopeful that I can pick that up at the shop tomorrow. Hello, everyone. Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Symbiote Spider-Man 2099 #1. This is a new book for Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Peter David with art by Roge Antonio, Sebastian Cheng on colors, letters by Travis Lanham, and a very cool cover by Laniel Francis Yu and Sonny Go. We have some more covers at the end of the video. Stay tuned for that. Interestingly enough, we have um, maybe Miguel dealing not for the first time with a symbiote, but maybe for the first time wearing a symbiote, especially based on the cover and what we're seeing. So let's take a look at the synopsis. Um, and before I do that, uh, I think online we had been reading about Peter David going through some health issues. I hope this means that he's been able to get past that and he's back on writing comic books. Some of his 2099 Spider-Man stuff is my favorite that I've read, like really all time for the character. So, very glad to see his books back on the shelf. So, in this issue, Peter David returns to the symbiote Spider-Man saga. Set your time circuits ahead to the techno dystopian future of 2099, where comic legend Peter David triumphantly returns to pen the next epic chapter in the symbiote Spider-Man saga along with artist Roge Antonio. Set your time circuits ahead to the what? That's an interesting way to kind of redo the synopsis. Yeah, Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, is facing a hostile takeover of his own body. Cronstone, the Venom of 2099, wages an all-out assault on Alchemax. The only hope of stopping him lies with the power awakened by a top-secret project gone terribly wrong. What must Miguel sacrifice to seal the bond with his new symbiote? Will it be his body, his mind, or his soul? Very poetic stuff, right? Um, Look, my favorite Spider-Man is 2099, and I love all kinds of symbiote shenanigans. And like I said, Peter David writes some of my favorite Miguel O'Hara. So like this checks all my boxes. Let's take a look at some of the preview art here. We begin with the attack on Alchemax. It looks like we only have 4 different pages, but they really give us a lot. We do get to see Miguel, which is really cool. I don't know much about the Venom from 2099, so I think that'll be fun to learn more about, and then also how that will play out in this story. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited to read this because, like I said, there's a lot of things that really check my boxes for this comic book. So. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Avengers Twilight #4 after the thunderous, shocking events from last issue. I'm very excited to get into this. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. Of course, this is written by Chip Zdarsky with art and colors by Daniel Acuna. We also have letters by Joe Caramagna and a plethora of really cool covers you'll see at the end of the video. Stay tuned for that. In this book, the Avengers are on the run from the new Avengers as old enemies emerge. And what is the terrible secret of Iron Man, the Wasp, and H-Day? So H-Day is the day that changed everything in this world. So we'll definitely get to see a little bit more of that. This book is very fast paced. There's a lot of things happening at once, especially once we have the inclusion of Miss Marvel and Thor coming in to help Cap's Avengers in this new world, as they are kind of being confronted by all the forces from the government, this new, everything that's being, all the strings that are being pulled by James and his advisor. We'll talk that a little bit more about that in a second. But yeah, it's really cool. There's a really action-packed sequence with Thor as he's taking out a bunch of planes. It's just, I really like this version of Thor. It feels like he knows he kind of messed up. Whatever happened in H Day and whatever made him go away for a while, he knows that he left his friends behind, and I think he feels bad for that. And that's you can really see that in Acuna's art. So let's take a look at some of the preview art. Just this shot of Thor, like yes, he looks almighty. Yes, but just to me, it feels like he's there looking at something that he might have done wrong, right? Sometimes that extra second just standing there. We see a really fun fight between James and Cap, and then everybody else in the gang still trying to clear the raft. And then just once again, we see Thor kind of overlooking the explosion. Um, Here's where we see that really cool sequence of Thor taking out the planes, and that's kind of bring an end to the preview pages. But let me tell you, the art continues to be very amazing. When we do a flashback to H Day, Acuna changes the tone of the colors a little bit to really emphasize that this is a flashback, which I think is very well done. It really changes the tone, changes the mood of the story. And then there are plenty of big revelations in this issue. You find out if you've been following along with the clues, you know who the real bad is, but also are they going to come into the public? That's the real question there. And then also, what is Cap going to do with his new Avengers that he's formed when he finds out a terrible secret about the current new Avengers? There's a lot happening in this book, but it's really, really fun. So, hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Fall of the House of X #3. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team. This book is written by Gary Duggan with art by Lucas Wernick and Jethro Morales. Brian Valence on colors, letters by Travis Lanham, and a plethora of really cool covers. You'll see some at the end of the video. Let me know which variant you picked up. In this issue, the end has truly begun. The X-Men have taken all they're willing to take from Orchis. Now it's time for them to do the dishing out. Unfortunately, when it seems like one thread is over, another rises to take its place. The final battle of Krakoan ages rages as the two series move towards one that will crash and will echo across the universe. Uh, this was a very satisfying issue. I think it finally wrapped up a lot of things that we've been really setting up for the past few issues and even a little bit longer. I think a lot of people are starting to get their comeuppance, and if this one, as you can see from the cover, Doctor Stasis is in the you know is in the mark. He's the one that's probably coming up. Let's take a look at one thing real quick. I do love that Marvel's giving us these like character breakdowns of who's involved in this book. So as I mentioned, we have Cyclops, Magic, Apocalypse, Manifold, Shadowcat, Sync, Emma Frost, and Rogue. We also have the Juggernaut, Firestar, Krakoa. And then on the Orchid side, we have Dr. Stasis, Dr. Alia Gregor, and Nimrod. So, very interesting set of characters. A lot of them have plenty of stuff going on. So, uh, yeah, I think Gary Duggan is very rapidly moving in the direction of like we have to set up the final conflict. I think things are kind of at the end. I do enjoy that it looks like the mutants are kind of like they've been struggling for a little while now, like even before this series, obviously since the Hellfire Gala. But here, Gary Duggan very smartly writes how resilient the X-Men can be, how smart and savvy they can be, especially Cyclops. I feel like Gary Duggan really likes Cyclops, and he's really putting him over. So you'll see some of that in a minute when we look at some preview art. And of course, we have two different artists. I will tell you this: if I hadn't read the synopsis with two different artists, I wouldn't have been able to point out the differences. I think Wernick and Jethro Morales work very much in sync, no pun intended, um, to ensure that the transition from one to the other very seamless. I think a lot of this is helped by Valenza's colors, that they maintain the same tone throughout the issue. That really helps, I think. So let's take a look at some of the preview art here. And I don't even know which pages are whose. Um, so I'm gonna just assume that this is one of the artists here. I love this idea of the Juggernaut not being able to, like, he's unstoppable, even when he's got like an adamantium spear stuck in his leg. These Orcus goons, like, they're after him and Krakoa. Obviously, the Juggernaut wants to and is protecting Krakoa, who is really defenseless in the middle of the desert. Um, Especially now that he's in like this, he's not in his island form. He's more in like his mobile form, if you will. And I love this last panel of the Juggernaut using pieces of Krakoa that are being shot off as his own ammunition, and just like how violent the panel is without having to be so violent. Just like the implied carnage that happens. I think it's a very fun way to do that. And then we move on to Cyclops. I feel like this is where we do have an art switch. Like looking at the pages more in depth, I think probably one of the storyline, like the Juggernaut piece, or like the Cyclops story is probably done by one artist. The everything else, but yeah, I don't know. You guys tell me what you think when you read it. And just I love how Cyclops, even though he's been prisoner for such a long time, and he's been captured. He's been plotting. He's been plotting here. Uh, you know, she finds out that Cyclops could have probably escaped at any time he wanted, but he was there waiting for the right time. And that's not even that's even just the beginning of it. Like I said, there's a big thing that happens. Dr. Stasis is in the crosshairs. That's what I was trying to say earlier. And yeah, the mutants are taking back their upper hand. Emma Frost is one of my favorite moments I've seen in a long time. She's such a badass character, and Gary Duggan really knows how to write her. I do enjoy that she still has little conversations with Tony Stark, even after their story together is kind of over. So, yeah, I'm quite enjoying this. I will say one thing that kind of deflated my excitement for this issue is that Marvel, as of the day of the recording, they announced what's happening to the X-Men in the summer. So like, let's finish this first. I know comics work months ahead, and unfortunately, that's kind of the way of the biz. But yeah, like I want to get through the Age of Krakoa first. Let's finish this. Let's take it all the way to the finish line, and then we can get excited about the upcoming mutants. So, uh, hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Wolverine number 45, Sabretooth War Part 5. We continue to review every issue of this series. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Victor Lavalle and Benjamin Percy, with art by Jeff Shaw, Alex Sinclair on colors, letters by Corey Petit. Uh, yeah, this story continues to unravel, and I'm very excited. So in this issue, X marks the spot. The treasure hunt is on as Sabretooth picks up on the trail of an item that will turn the tide in the war on Wolverine. But as the best there is regroups with as the best there is regroups with the remnants of his allies, it'll be a race against time for the good guys to uncover a lost weapon that could prove to be their last hope, and that's if Orcus and the Stark Sentinels don't get to them first. Uh, I have a lot of questions. When I was doing my review, I wrote a lot of questions that this issue set up. This issue is definitely one of the slower ones, as far as like up until now. A lot of them have been very gory. A lot of violence has happened, and there's a little bit of that. There's definitely some conflict, but this one, like the last one, I think like these are kind of like 4 and 5 are sides of the same coin, where we saw Wolverine regroup in issue number 4, and this one Sabretooth continues his plotting. We do know that the other Sabreteeth, whatever you want to call them, something's going on. They're plotting something. So Marvel's been doing this really cool thing with the X-Men series, where they kind of give you an overview of who's involved here, and as well as a little synopsis if you've been, if you hadn't been paying attention. So of course we have the X-Force, Logan. We also have Domino. Quentin Quire has been taken out of action. Colossus still around. Wolverine is trapped by the Sabretooth. Black Tom Cassidy, Aurora, Northstar, Sage are all still helping out Logan. And of course, Dakin has been taken out. As far as the Team Sabretooth, We have the original Victor Creed, Pretty Boy, and Captain Sabretooth have been taken out. So we have Camo, who is the shapeshifter, and Savage Sabretooth, who is a female version of Sabretooth. We also know that the Exiles are still kicking about, probably will interfere. Victor Lavaya has been writing the Exiles and following that group throughout those Sabretooth series that he's done in the past. So we have Ova, Third Eye, Sinclair, Melter, uh, Toad, and of course the ship named Ship, a sentient ship, which is a really fun concept in comics as always. Yeah, this was another fun issue. I really love all the plotting that's going on. But yeah, there's a little bit of mystery, right? The saber teeth, the one that can shift, and the female one are plotting something. They go and they pick somebody up. We don't know who it is. We don't know what's revealed. We don't know where they went to get them. So that'll be interesting to find out. Wolverine's approaching, of course, but also what is Creed looking for? What is he after in the island of Krakoa? Why take all the risks to, the island's been surrounded by sentinels because of all the orca shit that's going on. And also, how will the exiles play into this? A lot of really interesting questions. I'm very invested in this series actually. Uh, Jeff Shaw continues to do some killer artwork. Just like the tone, he really manages to capture it here, especially with all the psychic stuff going on. We got a little head in a box with psychic powers, so like that's pretty messed up. But yeah, that's a very big thing that happens and continues all throughout the issue. And even just the body language, especially here with these other saber tooths, like their body language really tells you like they're plotting something, right? There's something going on. Here we see the shapeshifter going into this other dimension, which looks super cool. It reminds me of God Country, which is this panel specifically. Jeff Shaw did a series with Donny Cates called God Country. If you haven't read that, you should go check it out. Yeah, so very cool to see that type of work. That was one of the reasons that I enjoyed Jeff Shaw's work, like just the look, that whole messy, like kind of torrential type of paneling. I really appreciate that. So we also have some really cool covers at the end of the issue, a lot of things celebrating these two characters throughout the ages. So stay tuned because I'll be talking more about this as the series continues. We are halfway through the story now. This is a 10-part event, so stay tuned for that leading up to Wolverine 50, which I presume is going to be an oversized series. So hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Ultimate Black Panther #2. This is a new book from Marvel Comics as we follow through the Ultimate Universe line at Marvel. Let's take a look at the creative team here. This book is written by Brian Hill, with art by Stefano Caselli, David Curiel, and colors letters by Corey Petit. We have a bunch of really cool covers in the back, including one by Boss Logic, which is really interesting to see. Boss Logic does a lot of the posters. I guess he started doing kind of like fan posters for Marvel stuff and DC stuff and the movies, and it's really cool to see that now he's kind of working on stuff like this. I think he's done some official posters for Marvel for the movie stuff, but this is the first time I see his name on a comic book, so that's got to be pretty cool. I was also able to pick up this issue and a second printing of the first issue, which I missed because my shop sold out. So that'll tell you how hot this series is. In this issue, Wakanda bangs the drums of war after Moon Knight's forces attack the stronghold. And remember, in this Ultimate Universe, two people make up Moon Knight, which is interesting. The stronghold of Wakanda, T'Challa can no longer resist Shuri and the Dora Milaje's call to action. Grieving and enraged, the Black Panther demands to know who's been leaking information about Wakanda to their enemy, and the source shocks him to his core. And the prophecy about T'Challa threatens to upend the war and all of Wakandan life. The book's doing something very interesting. I think Brian Hill has taken the core of what we know as the Black Panther and the mythos, but really added a lot of elements that make it feel very distinct. I think in this book, T'Challa is a little bit more unsure about himself. I feel like in one of the things, his conviction is one of the things that I followed the most and I really like. But in this, he's being pulled in so many directions here, that I feel like he hasn't had that moment where everything crystallizes and he really finds his true north. So that'll be interesting to follow around. Stefano Caselli continues to do some bang up art. We'll take a look in a second. The designs, whenever it comes to fighting, there's a lot of unrest being also kind of brought to the pages, and of course, there's a lot of mysteries, right? Who is this spy that's working for Moon Knight? Are they allies? Are they something that is it more of a convenience thing? How will that play out? We do see that Black Panther finally enters the fight, so that's really fun. Because, like I said, Caselli's action sequences are just really cool, really dynamic, very much over the top when it comes to the action. So yeah, how will Black Panther deal with the revelation that we have towards the end of the issue? So this book is fast paced, full of the political intrigue and the action that you love to see. So let's take a look at some of the preview art here. As I mentioned, Stefano Caselli just doing really good job. Great body language with demonstrating how T'Challa just very unsure of himself, and then the political unrest that is happening in Wakanda, intertwined with their conversation. I think that really adds to the grievances here. So I appreciate that. I really love to see that. Um, Black Panther in this book has a lot of advisors, and I feel like not all of them have his best interest. There's also the whole prophecy of it all. So yeah, very interesting stuff. I really think that this book is a lot of fun. The whole Ultimate Universe is a lot of fun. So really enjoying following. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Alien Black, White, and Blood #2. This is the ongoing anthology series from Marvel Comics. We will take a look at the creative teams. We'll kind of go as far, we'll go in more into detail into each of the stories. But we do have the first story, Utopia, which is going to be multiple parts in all 4 issues. That's by Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing, Michael Dowling, and Chris Sotomayor. We also have More Soul, the second story, that is by Paul Jenkins, Luigi Terrell, and Andres Mosa. And then First Day by Stephanie Williams and Jethro Morales. Really cool covers we'll see at the end of the issue. So I'm gonna show you a little bit of that. I think the Utopia story, I've talked about it in the first issue. My feelings definitely remain the same. So go check out the video for that. I'll definitely do a follow-up conversation, I think, once the 4 parts are complete, because I'm going to go ahead and reread it. I think one thing about anthologies is that because I'm reading so many comics, when they break them up into little parts like this, it's hard for me to remember what's going on. But let me read the synopsis that Marvel provided. As I mentioned, Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly's generation spanning epic continues. So there is, even though there's follow up, like I feel like they're jumping around each issue, so that'll be really fun. Very similar to a book I just finished reading from Boom Studios, whose name escapes me right now. But yeah, The Space Between. Yeah, it's a similar concept. Obviously, this has to do with aliens. The other one didn't really. But we also have legendary creator Paul Jenkins exploring the chemistry of fear and a story that will leave you with a whole new terrifying understanding of the xenomorph species. And the last story by Williams thrills with a story of a Marine's first and possibly last day on the job. Uh, what I've really been enjoying about these is that the stories feel like a really cool Twilight Zone episode, except that it's always like really something like whatever the twist is that's really messed up. It involves xenomorphs. That's kind of what I'm seeing here, and I like that. As a fan of the Alien franchise, I just find that very charming. So let me pull up some preview art. This is from the Utopia story. Michael Dowling just I love how this looks like almost the scratchiness of it all, like the way that he does shading, the inclusion of the little bit of the green and the red tints. Obviously, we are allowed to use green because xenomorphs blood is green. So I love that they found a little loophole. So I'll talk more about the story when the story is collected. um, let's go on to the next one. So this is the morsel story, which is great, like really interesting to begin with. Just thematically is very fun. This one's the one that has felt the most like a Twilight Zone episode. We start with these people have they're kind of using this planet's resources. They are uh, taking their cattle, their resources, their donuts. As you can see, a very cool, beautiful looking donut, very delicious looking. But then they run into tragedy. Something is killing their cattle. If you're an Aliens fan, you know exactly what's killing their cattle. And then I think the twist that you'll see here is just so much fun. I think this was out of this issue, this was my favorite story. And then let's pull up the first day story, which is all about Marines and betrayal. Right off the bat, this is action packed from the get go. There is no stop. The pacing on this story is so fast, but I love it. The art is amazing, like just very dynamic. I love the flamethrower here. Um, I love the facial expressions. Like there is not one moment where this Marine had like blinks. So yeah, very interesting. And once again, pretty shocking ending. So um, I don't know. This is my favorite stuff when it comes to aliens. Like, I just want these little morsels, no pun intended, with the title of the second story. I just want these little stories that give me a little bit more insight into the xenomorphs and what they can do and how terrifying they can be. My friends over at Crew Expendable are actually following along with this series as well. They did a full episode on the first issue of the series. Go check it out. Hopefully, I can get over there and we can continue our Wolverine Predator series as well. But yeah, I'll put their link on the description of the video. So if you have read this, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone.